It was a gut punch tonight for Kansas City in New York, so we'll give you our thoughts next on Locked On Royals.
You are Locked On Royals, your daily Kansas City Royals podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are tuned into another edition of Locked On Royals and the Locked On Podcast Network. As always, I'm your host, Jack Johnson, and you can find me on Twitter or X, whatever you want to call it, at JohnnyJ_15. That is at JOHNYJ_15. You also can catch us on wherever you listen to your podcast, Spotify, Apple Podcast, Amazon Music, Google Podcast, Odyssey, and YouTube. Just be sure to hit the follow button and subscribe. For you first-time listeners, here's how the format works. We bring you episodes Monday through Friday, and Monday through Thursday, we're always going to be bringing you recaps after the game, and we'll have a 40 to 60-second short that we always post, usually right after the game on Tuesdays. A little bit difficult. I got things going on in the evening, so I don't get to it till later on, but we'll get that little 60-second recap, and then we bring you the 30-minute episode. So every time you watch a Royals game, you can expect to have an episode later on that night, except for Friday, which is a Mailbag Friday dedicated to you, the listener. And we'll do those in the morning time, not after the game on Friday. But our 60-second shorts will carry into the weekend as well. We just won't be bringing you the 30-minute episodes on the weekend. Today's show is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can get $250 in bonus bets when that first $5 bet wins. So get started today over at FanDuel. I really wanted to believe that this was going to be a positive episode tonight. If you've listened to me long enough, you would know I try to be more optimistic. It's not to say that I'm going to gloss over things that are unacceptable, because tonight, thing I saw was pretty unacceptable in my opinion. I would love to see a change from the coaching staff and to see somebody get leveraged into a spot I feel that they have earned. We will get to that, though, in this first segment. Then we're going to dive into this schedule in April and why maybe we can pump the brakes a little bit on saying if this team is really good, they're mediocre, or they're bad. Because right now they're getting tested pretty much every single series. Now, I will say, if you want to be the champions of the American League and hopefully the champions of all of baseball, winning the World Series this year, you got to be able to beat good teams. And so far, the Royals haven't done it. They've won a couple of games. They haven't won many series against great teams. I mean, hell, even Baltimore is scuffling right now. They're 6-10 to open up the year. The Royals are 8-10. The Yankees, they've been good in this series, but they're only 10-7. Nobody's really run away with a spot in the American League right now. But again, we'll dive into that in the second segment. In the third segment, do have some thoughts on the debut of Evan Sisk tonight. Saw some good, saw some bad, and I am excited to see what he's got moving forward in the Royals bullpen. As for tonight, we said this on yesterday's episode. It was going to be an uphill battle for the Royals. I ended up being wrong for the most part that it was a bad matchup for Michael Wacha. I'll admit where I was wrong there. This just didn't feel like a favorable one for him. Sometimes he's bitten by the long ball in the way that Seth Lugo is. And I thought with the way the Yankees hit Seth Lugo in that one inning on Monday night, that they were going to be able to get to Michael Wacha a little bit. But most importantly, it was the scuffling offense and having to go up against the ace of the New York Yankees rotation, Max Fried, who had been so dominant in his first three starts to the year. Like, nothing about it felt it was going to be a great matchup for the Royals. And yet they score more runs off Max Fried in 3 innings than they did off Carlos Carrasco in 5. And you saw that they were putting together better at bats. They didn't have Jonathan India in the lineup tonight. And I don't know if that's a sign of things to come where maybe an IL stint is going to happen, or if it's just trying to ease him back in there while he's dealing with the tight quad, I believe it was, that he suffered in the Cleveland series. But they got 2 runs, and Michael Wacha was dealing. And as I'm sitting on the couch watching this game, it appeared that this was going to be one of those strong outings for Michael Wacha. Hell, in the 6th inning, I'm going, get the final out here, send him back out for the 7th, and you got Ursig and Estevez for the 8th and the 9th. Maybe scratch across one more run, and I feel good about 3-0. With the way Ursig is pitched, with the way Estevez has looked, I feel good about the chances of stealing game 2 when you feel like the Yankees stole game 1 with a 38-year-old on the mound. Because baseball's random like that. You know, you win the game you shouldn't win, you lose the game that you should have won. And that's going to be a constant thing throughout this season. Every time you feel you got the good matchup, might not go your way. And then when you think it's a tall order, it's going to be a mountain to climb, you win those games. Like there was one I remember in 2023 that was just the absolute, baseball is unpredictable game, which was Jose Cuas as an opener against Shane McClanahan, who was a Cy Young favorite for the Rays, and the Royals won that game in extra innings, I want to say. And that was a bad Royals team, and that was a good Rays team. That's the randomness of baseball. And tonight it felt a little random that the Royals offense had suddenly caught a little fire. We're heating up against Max Fried, and then he, buttoned it back up and was able to get through nearly 7 innings of 2-run ball. MJ Melendez had homered in this game. There was a cool shot in the dugout with Alex Zumwalt putting his arm around him. You can criticize MJ for the way he's played. I've done it. But I also believe we can see the human side of it and understand that MJ knows the pressure that's on him. And he knows there's been a lot of stuff said about him. And he's not a fan favorite like Bobby Witt Jr. is, like Cole Reagans is, guys that are performing at an elite level. And to see that weight come off his shoulders, it was nice to see from a human standpoint, a player standpoint of, we aren't doing this. I'm not doing this. If I was 3 for 40 in the big leagues and I knew that everybody was calling for my job, a home run like that off of an ace would make me feel pretty good and let me breathe a little bit. And you saw the dugout react in that way, which I thought was a cool thing to see. And I will always hold true that I'm not rooting against any of these guys. I mean, you can be excited about players that are coming up. I want the guys that are struggling to succeed because why? That means that this team is going to be winning a lot of baseball games. And I'm not sure if it's going to do much, that one home run. He drove another ball later on in the game, but he also grounded out and struck out 10 the game. It was 1 for 4. Will you take 1 for 4 from MJ Melendez every time he's in the lineup, driving in 1 run, whether it be a home run or just an RBI? I'll take that. Hunter Renfroe played some good defense in right field. Also didn't come through when there was a runner at third and less than 2 outs. And that was costly early on in the game. But we all know why we are sitting here tonight talking about another loss, the 10th loss of the year for the Royals. It was Michael Wacha striking out Cody Bellinger, and then he struck out Paul Goldschmidt. So it was 2 outs, 1 on. Aaron Judge was at first. He led off that inning with a single on I want to say it was actually a 3-0 pitch. So Wacha was already struggling with his command a little bit. And if you were to ask him which at bat he would go back to and be way more aggressive in the zone, it would have been Jazz Chisholm. Jazz Chisholm, he homered yesterday. He is somebody at this point in time with the torpedo bat, either a home run or a strikeout. But still, I like my chances of attacking in the zone and getting him maybe to swing over the top of something, and you're out of that frame. And you probably get a chance to go into the 7th inning, but somebody will be warming up behind you. He walks Chisholm, and then he walks Volpe. And Matt Quatrero goes to Angel Serpa. And there has been this heavy criticism for Matt Quatrero early on in the year of going to a certain guy, needing 1 out, usually at this point of the game, the 6th inning. And we went to Sam Long in the Baltimore series. It unraveled for him. Tonight, he goes to Angel Serpa. And Angel Serpa comes in, immediately walks Austin Wells on 4 pitches. And then you get Dominguez coming to the plate, and you fall behind. I want to say it was 1-0. Maybe it was he started the count 0-1, but he got the 2 strikes. And he appeared to have better command of his slider, but then he just had a mistake that was left a little bit too much in the zone, and Dominguez ripped it down the line. And I hate to say it, it just felt so predictable. It felt predictable after the walk. Like my confidence level in a ground ball being rolled over to second or a pop-up or a strikeout were very low. It just felt that he was either going to walk in another run or he was going to leave a cookie out over the middle. and the Royals were not going to have the lead. And right now, here's the problem is, Angel Serpa blew that game open. And that can't happen from somebody when you need one out. This is a guy who pitched in the postseason last year, pitched in big moments. He's got to be better than that. And he knows that. And I'm not going to sit here and give up on Angel Serpa. He's going to need to stay in this bullpen because he's a 96 to 97 mile an hour sinker ball pitcher that can get you a lot of outs this season. And tonight, he didn't. All right, that's baseball. It's not always going to work out. But there just doesn't seem to be this room for error with the way the offense is played. Like, as I said, tonight we can circle on Angel Serpa and say, that one's on you. But we can also lay some blame on Michael Wacha, as great as he was, that he walked Jazz Chisholm and Anthony Volpe with 2 outs, loading the bases to get to that spot. But I wanted to put this out there, but then I just ended up running around doing other stuff after the game. But with the way the starting pitching has looked and the way the bullpen has looked, really the higher-end relievers in the bullpen have been great. The lesser guys in the bullpen have not been as great. They're having to be perfect right now. Like, when you know your offense is only giving you 1 to 2 runs, you're needing to get through 6 innings and hold a great offense to 1 run or less to win this game. The bullpen can't go out there and say, well, it's a 5-1 game. If I give up a run, so what? I just need to get out of it and make sure it doesn't unravel. Now, when you're entering the game, it's almost always high leverage at this point. And I don't believe it's going to be that way forever. I do see this offense heating up because 18 games is just not a big enough sample size. And I know people are going to disagree with that, but I understand the frustration with what you're seeing with this offense. I also know it's a streaky offense. When they get going, they really get going. When they're not playing well, this is what it looks like. They can barely get a run or 2 on the board each and every night. But the pitching is keeping them in it. They've got the lowest starter ERA in all of baseball right now. And their bullpen needs their lower leverage guys to be mediocre because the higher end guys have been so good. They definitely need Hunter Harvey to get back healthy because that might have been a spot that you go to him in the 6th inning with bases loaded, even not paying attention to the righty-lefty splits there. What I will say to close out this segment, and I said it on my 60-second recap, I want to see Daniel Lynch in those spots. I mean, last night, I understand Daniel Lynch hadn't thrown in a while. It was a 4-1 game. Like, to me, that's when I want to see Evan Sisk and Angel Serpa, the lower leverage lefties, throwing in that spot. I want to see Daniel Lynch in the high leverage spots when it's favorable to face a lefty. I believe he's earned it. Not just this year, but going back to September. He's been damn good out of the bullpen. And tonight, if he was in that spot, I don't think he comes in there and walks somebody on 4 pitches. Angel Serpa needs to be a piece of this bullpen. He's got to improve. But right now, I believe the best left-handed reliever for the Royals and the guy that should be in the highest leverage spots when needing to bring on a lefty is Daniel Lynch. I feel that he's earned it, and he might get the next shot now that Angel Serpa is not pitched as well in those spots. Even going back to last year, he does not have a great track record with it. So maybe those spots that Daniel Lynch was pitching in last night should be the spots reserved for Angel Serpa. Let's take our first break of the show. When we come back, let's look at this schedule in April and what the Royals need to do for all of us to feel good about moving on to the month of May. That's coming up on Locked On Royals. You are tuned into Locked On Royals on the Locked On Podcast Network. I'm your host, Jack Johnson, and you can find me on Twitter or X at JohnnyJ_15. Want to give a shout out to our title sponsor tonight in FanDuel. The NBA playoffs are here, and FanDuel is giving new customers an incredible way to get in on the action. Right now, when you join FanDuel, place your first $5 bet, and you'll get $250 in bonus bets if your bet wins. And the FanDuel app makes betting so easy, whether it's picking your favorite team or diving into player props. I had a little bit of success the other night picking on some parlays when it came to moneyline picks in baseball. Also took the over on innings pitched for Paul Skeens. That always feels like a home run pick. And I also took the over on run total for the Dodgers against the Rockies, because that felt like a shoe-in for the most part. So had some success there. But if you're also trying to get on the NBA action, I sprinkled down some money on the Warriors tonight and Jimmy Butler with the over on his point total. So lots of fun over there with FanDuel, lots going on. So I strongly urge you to head over there to FanDuel.com and claim your $250 in bonus bets today. I put a tweet out this morning that was not to excuse the way the Royals have played in April, which still, I don't believe it's all bad. I mean, we can't sit here and say it's all been terrible. You can be frustrated. That's a part of being a fan. It's being a fanatic, right? You expect a lot of your team. And if your team made the postseason the year before, you're not going to settle for mediocre play. But it hasn't all been mediocre play for the Royals. It's been this offense, right? This offense has struggled mightily in the first 18 games. I also believe the Royals are very fortunate to be 8-10. They could be 4-14 right now. They could be 6-12, where you just don't feel as good. I mean, 8-10, you avoid the sweep tomorrow. You're 9-10, go split with Detroit, and you get back to Kansas City to face the Rockies, one game under 500. And even if we were in June, if you're a game under 500, you're not feeling fantastic. You're also not out of it. The pitching has been great. The pitching has been really, really good. We all know that. The starters have been fantastic. I have not seen any true regression from anybody, even though Seth Lugo gave up 4 home runs yesterday. Micah Wacha, he doesn't get through 6 innings. Micah Wacha looked great tonight. And all the runs that were charged to him, I don't believe that's on him. I mean, yes, the final box score is going to show 3 runs and the loss next to his name. But Angel Serpa walked in the run and then gave up a bases-clearing double. Like, inherited runners all scored on Angel Serpa, and he had a run charged to him. But Wacha has been fine. Lorenzen's been good. Bubic has been damn good. Cole Reagans has been Cy Young-esque. And Seth Lugo's been Seth Lugo. Maybe a little bit less than what he was doing to begin the year last year, but I'll take it. The bullpen, we have seen this split of Ursig, Harvey, Estevez, Daniel Lynch all be great. John Schreiber's been hit and miss. And then you've got Sam Long and Stratton, who have not been good. But now you have Evan Sisk and Steven Cruz in this bullpen. Angel Serpa's not been very good. But the bullpen as a whole is better than last year. And this tweet that I put out was just to bring up the difficulty of April. Because we all remember the gauntlet last year, where the Royals, I believe it was June, like it was the end of May and then a couple of weeks in June, where every team they were facing was just loaded. I mean, they were seeing the Padres, they were seeing the Guardians and the Twins and the Phillies, and they were just running into a great team every single night. I saw the Yankees as well in Kansas City, and it was a tough stretch. Like, it opened a lot of people's eyes where you went, in April, they started the year well. They were 14-ish games over 500 at the end of May, I want to say. And then they got tested. Pretty much every single week, they were facing a good team. And they fell back down to earth a little bit. And for some people, the reason I say it opened their eyes, they went, maybe it's just a 500 team. They're not a playoff team, and they can only beat up on the White Sox and beat up on those bad teams. We shouldn't really take them that seriously. Then they recovered pretty well, which is why I feel you should have some faith that they're going to recover from this 8-10 start, which I'm still not too upset over. Like, if you would have not given me any context to the first 18 games and said they went 8-10, I'd be disappointed. I would say, oh, you'd like to see that be 10-8 just to be over 500 in a tough stretch of play. But I'd be far more disappointed if it was 6-12, and that's only 2 games worse. If you were where Minnesota is at, you just would be feeling awful about the start to the season. But I chalked up how many how many series against playoff teams from last year they had for April 2025. And the numbers are pretty staggering here. So I'm counting, facing a team twice as 2 series. Not going just, they faced the team once, that's 1 series. If they saw them again, we're not adding that to the total. No, I added Cleveland in twice to this. So the total number of series against playoff teams from 2024 goes like this. In March, only one, it was Cleveland. In the month of April, they will have 6 series against playoff teams from last year. They have seen Cleveland. They have seen Milwaukee. They have seen Baltimore. They have seen the Yankees. They will see the Tigers, and they will see the Astros. Now, it does not mean the teams that made it last year are going to make it this year, but you have a lot returning from those teams. And 6 series against playoff teams from last year is the most by a wide margin. In May, they have only 3 series against playoff teams from last year. In June, 3 again. July, 3. Then August and September, both 2 apiece. So you are going through your quote-unquote gauntlet early on in the season. So the theme of it is not to crush everybody in their path or in your path, I should say, because it's also not realistic. You're not going to go, 24 and 6. Well, now you certainly can't because you have 10 losses. But the Royals were not going to do that. The way I've always seen it, when you are a team that's small market, you're not the Dodgers, you're not the Yankees, you say play 500 against the good teams and then beat up on the bad teams. And that's something they didn't even do last year. They were 9 games under 500 against teams with a winning record. But they were 20, I want to say almost 21 games. It needs to add up to being just 10 games over 500. So would that not be, maybe it was, I'll need to think about the number again. I'm terrible at math. I'm not going to do it on the fly and waste more time doing it. But they had beaten up on the bad teams. The stat that was brought up to me on Twitter was last year, they were 74 and 75 against everybody not named the Chicago White Sox. And to me, that stat doesn't hold a lot of weight with me. Like, I get the point of it. It's to say, well, they're not a playoff team if they didn't face the worst team that baseball's ever seen. To me, it's a little bit different, though. How you get into October doesn't really matter. Like, if the Royals go 88 and 74 and they beat up on the White Sox again, let's say they only lose one time, and that's the only reason they win the American League Central, I don't really care. I don't. Because they will have a bye in the wild card series, and they will have home field in the ALDS with whoever they would be facing. And that is what matters in October. What matters is you got your foot in the door, and you want to get hot at the right time. Like last year, Baltimore had a winning record against teams with a winning record. And they get swept by Kansas City and score 1 run in those 2 games. So that really didn't matter when it was all said and done. So going back to this, a tough April, if you want to go on a tear at some point, really build that cushion, surviving April is important. If you can be 500 or maybe a game or 2 under that or a game or 2 over that by the end of April, I feel really good about what this team can do in the months of May, June, July, and August and September. Because I also believe the warmer the weather, the bats will start to heat up. Yeah, you might see some regression from the rotation, but I'm also holding true that I don't think it's going to be that much. How this offense is played, I see it getting better than this. I don't view them as the worst offense in all of baseball. Probably got them in the 17 to 20 range. Maybe they can get a little bit higher than that. But still, 17 to 20 is a hell of a lot different than 30th in all of baseball. And do I believe they're the best rotation in baseball, the best pitching staff? No. But I also believe they can be top 5 yet again like they were in 2024. Okay, we're going to take our final break of the show. When we come back, I got some thoughts on Evan Sisk's debut at Yankee Stadium. He struck out the side, also struggled with command a little bit. We'll dive into it next on Locked On Royals. You are tuned into Locked On Royals and the Locked On Podcast Network. I'm your host, Jack Johnson. You can catch us on wherever you get your podcasts, Spotify, Apple Podcast, Amazon Music, Google Podcast, Odyssey, and YouTube. Just be sure to hit the follow button and subscribe. Want to give a shout out to our second sponsor today in PrizePicks. Basketball and hockey playoffs are heating up, and there's no better way to turn your sports knowledge into real rewards than with PrizePicks, the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy. With PrizePicks, you simply pick more or less on at least 2 player projections, and you're in. You can even combine players across sports like basketball, hockey, baseball, and more for your chance to win up to 2,000 times your cash. So download the app today and use code LOCKEDONMLB to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONMLB to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks, run your game. And again, that code LOCKEDONMLB, LOCKEDONMLB. Go get started today at PrizePicks. The Royals got a major league debut from Evan Sisk in the the bottom of the eighth at Yankee Stadium tonight. A couple thoughts on it here, because I have been excited to see Evan Sisk make his debut. I thought last night would have been a good opportunity in the seventh inning, I want to say it was. There were two lefties coming up. The Royals were down 4-1. Felt like it might be a good opportunity. He doesn't get in. Seth Lugo stays in. He goes 6 2/3. Then they turn it over to John Schreiber. Then you get to Daniel Lynch later on. Tonight, it went from Micah Wacha to Angel Serpa to Steven Cruz, who fought command a little bit, walked 2 immediately after coming in out of the bullpen, but then got a pop-up and a strikeout to end that threat. And then Evan Sisk gets the ball. And he brings such a funky look from the left side. And it's why I was excited about Sisk coming up to Kansas City. It would be one thing to have another lefty in that bullpen, one that throws 93 to 94, Austin Cox-like, where he came up and was great in the role that he had for Kansas City in 2023. Might be able to see him again at some point this season, but it was time for Sisk to get his shot. And with the way he had pitched in the minor leagues, always had a low ERA, had a pretty big strikeout number. Walks were an issue, though. And we had touched on that, where with that funky arm angle, it doesn't always mean that you're going to be tough to hit, because you might be wild as hell, and he's only throwing about 89 to 93. So you don't have the velocity, but against left-handed hitters, as we saw, he's throwing the ball from behind them. And you got some ugly swings from Ben Rice, who he struck out to end the inning. He also got Anthony Volpe, and I want to say Austin Wells he struck out. He also walked a batter and fell behind a lot of hitters, and it was a grind for him. Maybe it was nerves. Maybe it was just not having the best grip on the ball. But striking out the side alone should, be something that the Royals coaching staff and the front office take notice with. Because he's taking the spot of Sam Long. And Sam Long could not do that, where you have the stuff to strike out the side. And that stuff moves. The slider, and if he can locate the sinker, you really have a good weapon in the bullpen. And on nights like tonight, I get it. You don't want to hear me rambling about a guy that made his debut and the Royals lost the game and they blew a 2-0 lead. I understand that part. I just see a world in which Evan Sisk is going to get some pretty big timeouts for the Royals this year. And if he's a strikeout pitcher from the left side and he can locate a little bit better than he did tonight, I would love to see him throw in the Rockies series, which I imagine we will in one of those 3 games. I want to see him throw, in the Detroit series. Might not throw tomorrow night because he threw damn near 30 pitches. Feels that he would be unavailable. Daniel Lynch would be the only lefty, in my opinion, that should be available to throw out of the bullpen tomorrow night. But to have him in a lower leverage spot, and when I mean lower leverage, you're at home, you're not facing as scary as a lineup. Go out there and raid the zone, as they like to say. Go out there and attack hitters. And when he gets into favorable counts, you saw that last swing that Ben Rice had. And it's incredible to see him throw from that angle. Because I can't imagine being a left-handed hitter and that's coming from behind you. When he releases the ball, you are seeing a frisbee being thrown at you. And that's going to generate some ugly, ugly swings. Command is important, though. If he can't command it, he's not going to be able to be trusted in those spots. It's why Steven Cruz is still working his way into that circle of trust. If you come out of the bullpen and you walk the first 2 guys you face, well, we can't have you in the 7th inning and the 8th inning. you can only pitch when we're losing so that there's no lead to blow. But for Evan Sisk, first time out, I mean, you strike out the side and you got some serious movement to that slider. You got a cutter, you got a sinker. It can work out. And the goal for him is I got to pitch well enough where there's no need for somebody to take my spot the rest of the year. He's going to get those high leverage spots eventually. Right now, though, I was impressed with the swing and miss. Got to see better command, though. Maybe it was nerves. You're making your major league debut at Yankee Stadium. I'm sure that the lights have never felt brighter. But when you strike out all 3 outs there, you got to feel pretty impressed with what you did. And you didn't allow a run. It was a grind. But what was important is there's a 0. There's a 0.00 next to your name at the big league level. So good on him making his debut. Long time coming. And I don't envision him going anywhere anytime soon. All right, that's going to do it for another edition of Locked On Royals and the Locked On Podcast Network. I've been your host, Jack Johnson. Thank you for making Locked On Royals your first listen today. For your second, check out the all-new Locked On MLB Game Night, where every game, every night, it's all season long. Get local analysis on a national scale and find MLB Game Night on Locked On MLB on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcast. Tomorrow, we're going to recap the game that happens between the Royals and the Yankees. 6:05, the first pitch. Chris Bubich gets the ball, and he will go up against Clark Schmidt, who the Royals saw in Game 3 of the ALDS last year. And then we will probably wrap up that episode leading you into the Royals and Tigers series. First time these two see each other, and it will be in Motown. But until then, you take it easy, Kansas City.